You're listening to the Hella Well with Danielle show, a podcast taking women of color on a journey exploring all things wellness and travel related. We're all about showing you how to put on your oxygen mask first and creating lasting self-care habits that will free you to travel the world and live the life you truly desire, and not one you have to fake loving. I'm your host, Danielle Washington. Now let's buckle up and start this journey. Hello, well, how you living? We have reached the end of the road of this 4-week series on the Inner Critic. I almost feel like, if I could play copyrighted music right now on this podcast, you would hear Boyz II Men in the background singing "We've Ended the Road." Before we get into this process and the end of this podcast of this series, I just want to do a couple of just deep cleansing breaths. So I want you to just take a moment, sit down, close your eyes, turn off any other noises in the background, just kind of ground into where you are. And then I want you to inhale deeply through your nose, hold it for a second, and then just drop it out of your mouth, just exhaling out of your mouth. So inhaling deeply. Let's do this 2 more times. Inhale deeply and then hold at the top. Hold. Exhale. And one last time. Make this one really, really count. Inhale deeply. Okay. I hope that helped someone. It helped me. Kind of love when you do one of those cleansing breaths and it kind of gets you going. It kind of just clears out any stuck energy that you may be feeling in your body. And which is perfect for what we're talking about today. Like, we have been talking about the inner critic, and really in the last couple of weeks, we've talked about, really how to figure out how to go from, your real self to when, needing to be able to understand the inner critic, how it operates, where it came from, this whole trance of unworthiness, how it shows up in your life, what's its purpose, and how to move through it. And that's what this episode is. It's about giving you practical ways to figure out how to move through it. Because again, there's so many podcasts probably outside. I didn't look, but I'm assuming there's podcasts. I'm sure there's 50 million podcasts. I know that there's tons of blogs, people telling you how to, silence the inner critic, how to shut it down. But that is really pointless. And I'm going to say that it's really pointless because if you've ever tried to fight something or fight anything in your life, like say if you are on a diet, like, oh, I'm restricting all these different things, that resistance, that need, that craving, it feels stronger because you're fighting it versus working with it. And like our last episode, we talked about how can you work with the inner critic versus working against it or trying to fight it. In this one, I wanted to give you literally, here are the things you can practically do to help you calm the inner critic. Not fight the inner critic, not silence the inner critic, but to calm the inner critic. One thing I found which was interesting, and I'm going to tell you one thing that I found that was interesting to try and do, and then I'm going to tell you what I accidentally did, not realizing I was doing it, and it worked amazing wonders on a situation that almost had me losing a friend. So I'll start off with the first thing. So one of the things that people have talked about doing is getting it all out, like just letting it all out. And what that means is taking a piece of paper and writing out all your negative thoughts out on paper. There's something magical about putting pen to paper. Even though I can't read my writing, I still do it because I'm like, I know that this works. I may not be able to read it, but there's something just metaphysical, and I'm sure there's something scientific about putting pen to paper. So the ideal with the situation about getting it all out is write every negative thought out on paper. First, write them in I statements. So if my situation was like, I am like everybody, well, what would the I statement would be? I should have had this all planned out. Nobody makes me a priority in their lives. I'm alone in this world. Those are I statements. So write it first out in I statements. And then next to each of those I statements that you made in those voices of the quote unquote inner critic telling you all these different things, of making you feel that you're saying it, write those things out saying as if you were like a you statement. So right, so I wrote down nobody makes me a priority in their lives. Instead of saying nobody makes me a priority in their lives, nobody makes you a priority in their lives. And then our next one was like, I am alone in this world. You are alone in this world. And the first thing when I did this, it reminded me of that podcast I did recently on affirmations and why they don't work, and talking about I am worthy, I am this, I am that, and then switching it from that to a question. And so when I was able to pose these, not necessarily as a question, but as saying, for saying, I am alone in this world, saying, you are alone in this world, it automatically got my brain thinking, and that natural curiosity is like, when I heard you are alone in this world, I was like, no girl, no you're not. You have this, you have that, you have all these different people, like your ancestors, like you aren't alone. So it gets your mind, it gets your mind to start coming up with rebuttals with the you statements that I found different than having, if your head is always saying I'm always alone, no one cares about me, so when you're saying me and I statements, when you switch them to you, your mind will automatically shift into a curiosity and a rebuttal state, which really helps you kind of move through these processes, and it helps you kind of make a separation between you and the actual inner critic and the inner voice that's in your head that's saying all these crazy things that isn't true, but we aren't able to decipher between the two. So through this process of creating you statements and I statements first, and then creating you statements, it really helps you figure out your real point of view, not the inner critic's point of view, but your personal real point of view. So you can see the difference and see when he or she is showing up and acting out in your life. And, I think that this is important. So I'm going to break down a situation that happened to me recently. And I'm just going to share from a vulnerable space, because I literally almost lost a friend over this and didn't even realize it that I was doing this. And so I had a situation where I will say I have struggled to let people into my life, and I'm working on it. I am working hard. I was going to not say I was working hard, but I have been working hard on it. I had a situation where I let a person into my life a couple years ago, and I let them deep into my life, which was like, I trust this person more than I trusted myself. And that relationship ended in a really harsh, negative way that I didn't see coming. And it made me deaden, hardened to the world, to the point where I was in a program for entrepreneurs, and everyone was talking to other people, and the person hosting the program was like, yeah, you were giving everyone the Heisman when we first came in. I was just like, what, me, huh? And I didn't even realize how closed off I was. But through that program and opening up, I started to connect with some people, and I connected with this one person, and I know this person saw that I was fighting her, and she was like, I don't care what you say, I'm gonna love on you till you just can't take it anymore. And I started finding myself opening up to this person. And then more recently, I just wasn't hearing from this person. It was like I would call, no answer. I would text, no response. I'd see this person constantly posting on social media. So I'm like, they ain't dead. So I'm like, what's up? My inner critic comes into play, and dun, 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 my inner critic tells me, oh my God, see, this is why you don't trust people. This is why, nobody's there for you. I'm all alone in this world. Like, why do you keep trying to make friends? Like, I am always alone. Someone's going to hurt me. They're going to abandon me. I am going to be abandoned. I am going to be constantly alone. This is what my inner critic is constantly saying to me in this situation as I'm going through this 4-week process of creating this podcast. So it's interesting how this played out. However, What I didn't realize, what I used to help me move through this and to calm my inner critic, was this amazing meditation or thought process method by Tara Brach, and it's called RAIN of Self-Compassion. So RAIN is an acronym, and it stands for recognizing what's going on, allowing to experience to be there just as it is, investigating with interest and care, keyword interest and care, and nurture with self-compassion. And this was something that I had learned from a friend years ago, and I, practiced it here and there, and I didn't realize how ingrained this was in me that I actually used it for my current situation. And it's just a great way to, and the way she talks about it, it's a great way for us to awaken to the trance of, unworthiness, and to mindfully be self-compassionate. But in order to do this, and this was the key that I was like, okay, I see you, girl, you doing your thing. The one thing that's key to this is to be able to soften and calm the inner critic. Yeah, self-compassion depends on being honest, direct with our own ability, our own vulnerability. Being in direct contact with our own vulnerability. And that has not, it's easy, but it's not always easy. I can see it, but I don't always see it. So it's kind of like I have the skill sets to kind of move through this, but sometimes I let the inner critic take its control and have its way. And I don't remember that, oh, wait, I have this ability to be compassionate with myself, to be honest with myself. And, that's when I'm in the trance of unworthiness. But when I'm able to soften and calm the inner critic through using RAIN, game changer. So let's break down RAIN and let's see how I utilize it and how it can work for you. So I'm going to put in the comments in the post the meditation she has, but I also put in more information about it just because I think this is just really good. And again, it's something that I ended up using without realizing I was using it, because I have done the meditation so many times and I've practiced this that it came naturally to me when I didn't even realize that I was utilizing it. So the beginning part, step one, recognizing what's going on. And basically what this means is just being conscious about where you're stuck. Like, where you're stuck, and like the thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, and behavior that are affecting us. And I say physical sensations because oftentimes when we're going through these emotional moments and our inner critic is acting a fool, it shows up in our body. Like whether you're feeling tightness in your chest, like I know for me, when I started paying attention how my emotions show up in my body, I know now when a back pain starts happening, it's not necessarily just a back pain. When I start feeling tightness in my chest or certain different things, it's an emotional response to something. And so when you're able to recognize and start paying attention and awareness of how the physical sensations show up in your body, you're then able to figure out, oh, when I get this weird thumb ache, that actually means that my inner critic's acting a fool. Whatever your situation is, it may be different than mine. My thumb does not hurt. But, we have physical sensations that show up all the time with our emotions, but most of us don't pay attention. So we're not connecting the two because we're not recognizing that there's a correlation between the physical sensations with our emotional traumas and things that are going on in our life. So you want to be able to kind of acknowledge and see where you're stuck and what's showing up. But also recognizing that, recognizing doesn't have to be like, okay, I've got a big flag out. I have recognized it. Let's have a party. It could just be as simple as, okay, I see you. I see you, inner critic. I see you. You're trying to act a fool. And we talked about this last podcast. It's like just, befriending it. It's like, that's cute. Excuse me. I see you. I see you trying to mess up my life. I acknowledge you. You're recognizing it. So that's the first step. The second step is allowing the experiences just to be there, just to be there as they are. And this is sometimes, I feel like, probably the most difficult part, because this means you're just being there as an observer. You're observing and letting the thoughts and the emotions and the feelings and the sensations that we recognize simply just be there with dun, da, 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 without trying to fix it or avoid anything. I don't know. Maybe this is just me, but I have had in the past historically an issue with not just allowing myself to be an observer, because I felt like I had to fix it. I'm feeling this emotion, I'm feeling these thoughts, I'm feeling these sensations. I have to fix it. Being able to be the observer of those feelings, thoughts, emotions, and sensations, and not fix it, not try to run from it and act like it doesn't exist. Like, I don't hear the inner critic. Oh, there's nothing going on. I'm good. Allowing to see it and observe it is so critical in this phase. And this doesn't mean that by you saying that, okay, I see it, I observe it, I'm aware of it, I'm good. It doesn't mean that you're agreeing with these negative thoughts like, oh, I'm always alone in this world, or no one cares about me. I'm always constantly abandoned. Why do people leave me all the time? It doesn't, observing it, acknowledging it, all those different things doesn't mean you agree that you are unworthy of, or these moments or these feelings are true. It just means that you're also acknowledging the arising of judgment, the rising of the inner critic. So by not judging yourself, you're kind of going and allowing yourself to be an observer. It's helping you calm the inner critic. And if it's just saying, hey, I'm okay. Like, okay, it's okay. Like, sometimes you just need to give yourself a little bit of reassurance. But I just wanted to make sure I kind of really, really reemphasize that you just being observer and not trying to fix it, and it's not you being passive, you not trying to fix it, or you not trying to add a judgment or avoid it or do something specific behind it. There's power in that. And we so often think that we need to do things by force, but this is one of those times when being a passive observer is one of the most powerful things you can do in the situation, because the next phase in all of this is the investigation. Because when you're investigating from a place of judgment and, well, it used to be this and da 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 da, you're all stuck back in the cycle, and you'll get back into the cycle of trance of unworthiness without even realizing that, oh, I've started the first part of recognizing and allowing it. But then when you go into the moments of judgment, you're just switching yourself back into the trance, and the inner critic has gone back to taking control of your life. So you want to be able to investigate with interest and with care. And this is the time to call on your natural curiosities while trying to also stay present in the moment. And so for me, the one thing that was really helpful was being able to connect the voices, the inner critic, with my actions. So think about when this happens, if you're in a moment where the inner critic's acting a fool, you've recognized it, you're allowing it to, you're allowing yourself to be aware and be the observer. And now you're in the investigation phase, and you're like thinking about, okay, let's think about the events that, trigger when the inner critic is like on fire. Like, how are these voices, how are these voices showing up? Like, how are they affecting my action? Identifying the patterns, and then recognizing the self-limiting behaviors that you engage in based on these voices. So, for example, with the friend that I was talking about earlier, the whole thing was, nobody truly cares about me. No one's willing to be a ride or die friend. The actions that came about from me having this thought process was, okay, let's put up walls to everyone, not just her, but I'm putting up walls to everyone and their mama, including my parents. I don't trust you people anymore. I'm like ready to block and unfollow her. Like, I literally was like, blink her. I'm not going to follow any of her stuff. I don't like her emails. I'm going to delete them without reading them. I'm I'm thinking about blocking her, on my phone and also unfollowing her on every social media, which is really extreme. But that's the inner critic. That's the inner critic. I let the voices dictate my actions. So the voice was saying, nobody cares for me. No one's willing to be a ride or die. This person has intentionally hurt me. So I'm going to try to intentionally hurt this person by blocking them and unfriending them. What I also did with this action, like with this kind of thought process and the voices, kind of the next action kind of came about with that, was me shutting down emotionally to everyone around me. Like I just completely shut down. Like I was here, but I really wasn't here. And then also just kind of had me afraid to take any risk to get to know other people and limiting my networking. I was in a new situation, and part of me was like, oh, I don't want to bring new people in my life because they're going to do the same thing. And then it was through that awareness, that recognizing, the allowing the feelings to happen and allowing myself to investigate without judgment, investigating with care and asking myself, like, what most wants attention right now? Like, how is this showing up in my body? Like, what am I experiencing in my body? What am I believing? When I was able to ask myself those questions and come from a place of care, it started the process of calming the inner critic. And the last part, which I think is key in all of this, is it's nurture. It's like nurture with self-compassion. And this is the part where you need to like sense into the wounds, the hurt, being frightening, and like that place inside of you and like figure out what it needs the most. And then offer it an active care to address those needs. So for me, self-compassion was all about softening towards the thoughts towards my friend, but also softening towards the thoughts of me. One of the things that came up in the investigation part was I was mad and hurt by this person, but on the flip side, I was mad and hurt at myself for allowing this person to be part of my life, for allowing myself to be punked by someone else. And the thing is, I wasn't even punked. None of this it was all the inner critic in my head telling me all these different things. And so I literally was playing myself and almost lost a really good friend because the inner critic was loud. The inner critic was freaking yelling his head off. Run, Forrest, run. This ain't for you. But when I allowed the self-compassion to soften my thoughts towards my friend and myself, it allowed me to allow the feelings to come up without judgment. It allowed me to ask myself, like, what did the inner critic need to hear at this moment? Like, what does this vulnerable space want from me? Does it need to be reassured by something? Does it need to be reassured that I'm not alone? That my friend still cares about me? Does it need a message of forgiveness, of love, of compassion? And when I was able to get down deeper, I was just like, okay, this is an old narrative. This isn't where you are anymore. This is the old narrative that you've played from your childhood when you thought no one was there for you. This isn't your friend. She's done nothing to show you that she doesn't care for you. Someone not being there constantly for you. Hey, guess what, sis? People have lives. People have kids. People have jobs. People have husbands. And that's when I started thinking in a non-judgmental, allowing myself to soften to thoughts. I was just like, wait, this probably isn't even about me, and I've made this so about me. And instead of, again, judging myself of like, oh my God, how could you do that? I was compassionate with myself during these moments of like, okay, maybe this isn't about me. Maybe this person's going through some things. And even if they are or not, what do I need right now? What do I need right now to feel love? What message do I need to know that I'm safe? Because in these times when these things happen, it triggers my feelings of abandonment. So what reassurance did I need at this moment to feel that I wasn't alone? And so I worked through that, and I was like, dun, 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 dun. I feel great all of a sudden. And I was like, I was able to de-escalate a situation that would have gone south real quick because I was listening to the inner critic. So that's kind of rain. So again, it's, recognizing what's it called? It's recognizing what's going on. It's allowing the experience just to be as it is. It's investigating with interest and care. And then it is nurturing with self-compassion. And one of the things that Tara Brach talks about, when doing rain is she talks about sometimes when you get to the compassionate part that a lot of her clients, and she's done this with several people, so it's like definitely proven that this stuff works. So it's not just me that it works for. Like, she's done the research. If you don't know Tara Brach, I talked about her in the previous podcast. She's amazing. Like, I literally love this woman. I love her books. I love listening to her podcast. I love just listening to her speak and talk about different things because she just breaks it down in a beautiful way, and it works. I mean, it just literally works. And so one thing she said that a lot of her clients had success with is like after doing the rain is like putting your hand on your heart or on your cheek or envisioning that you're being bathed in this beautiful warm light of love. And if all that works for you, great. Because I do know for some people, it may be difficult to love on yourself. I know there was a time in my life that it was like, I would try this and it was like, this doesn't really feel good. So one of the things she offers is if you have difficulty offering love to yourself, think of someone else that is a loving being in your life, whether it is a family member, a friend, it's a spiritual figure, someone who's no longer with us. Imagine that person or that being loving you and their love flowing into you. So imagine that if you have difficulty giving love to yourself. One of the things also I wanted to mention out was that she talks about this not being a one-shot meditation, and it's not, because there's times I've tried this and I'm like, this don't work. And there's times I tried it, I'm like, okay, this works. And there's times I forget about trying this. And then there's times like this when I didn't even remember this and I just did this naturally without paying attention that I was doing it. So it's like, it may work for you right away, first time off the bat, and continuously work all the times. But there may be times where you may experience partial or subtle shifts of openness. And it's okay. This is a process. It's a practice. It's not, again, a one-time thing. It's important to just notice in your own presence in this. Like one of the things she talks about after you've done rain, like you've gone through all the 4 steps, it's important to notice, where are you? Like, notice your presence, rest in that wakefulness, in that space of awareness. And then one of my favorite quotes from her is she talks about the fruit of rain is realizing that you are no longer imprisoned in the trance of unworthiness or in any limiting sense of self. So I love this practice. It is fire. What has helped me a lot in conjunction with this is, of course, Kundalini Yoga. I feel like I am like the spokesperson for Kundalini Yoga, but it just like it's called the yoga of awareness for a reason. The awareness that comes from it, the openness that comes from it has just been I don't know. It feels like a drug, and I know I'm not on absolutely anything because I'm not taking anything. I'm not barely even drinking anymore because I just feel so good and so open and so much in love and calm and grounded with myself through just doing this practice. And so one of the things I wanted to share with you guys as a practical method is this meditation. It's a meditation called the Meditation for the Calm Heart. And I will be posting a link to a YouTube video where I'll show you exactly how to do this. So if you want to skip to just go and see how to do it, It's going to be on YouTube, and you'll have a link in the show notes. But basically what you want to do is you want to sit in easy pose. So it's sitting with your legs crossed in front of you. And you want to have your left hand in the center of your heart. So you want to put the left hand at the center of your chest over your heart with your fingers all horizontal, including your thumb, pointing to the right. And then with your right hand, you want to take your right thumb and index finger and touch the tip of the index finger with the tip of the thumb and the other three fingers pointing up. So this is called Gyam Mudra. So you have your hand in Gyam Mudra, and then put your hand as if you were saying the pledge. So say if it was the Pledge of Allegiance, we all know the kind of to-do moment. So your hand is facing forward. Your hand is next to your body. The elbow is kind of down. And then this is the position of the meditation. So the elbows relax, and you want to have your neck slightly pulled back. So it's called Jalala bone. And so it's just a slight pull back. Eyes, keep your eyes closed, or you can keep them, looking straight ahead with, eyes like 1/10 open. So like barely open, or you just close your eyes, makes it easier. So the breath in this situation it was in the 5 parts. So you want to inhale slowly and deeply through your nose. Then when you get to the top of the inhale, you want to suspend the breath and then raise the chest, and then hold the breath in as long as you can without straining. So you don't want to strain to where you're like, when you're exhaling, you're like, and breathing it all out. You want to kind of make it so it's going to be smooth. So you want to hold as long as possible without straining, and then exhale smoothly, gradually, and completely. You want to exhale everything out. So once the breath is totally out, you want to lock the breath out and hold it out as long as possible again. And then just continue doing this. And in this process, you want to concentrate on the flow of the breath and regulate each bit of breath consciously. So to do this, you typically do this you could do it for 3 minutes. You can do it for 3 minutes. And what you do if you're doing it for 3 minutes to kind of start off with, and if you want to gradually make it longer, you do it for 3 minutes, and then you stop for a minute in between, and then you go back in and do it for a total of 11 minutes. To end the full process of this, like if you're ending like one of the 3-minute sections, what you want to do is inhale, exhale strongly 3 times, and then relax. And so that's what you do after the first 3 minutes. You'd inhale deeply, exhale deeply 3 times, and then you would relax for a minute, and then go back and do this for another 3 minutes. Inhale deeply, exhale deeply for 3 times, relax. Then the last time, do it for 3 minutes, inhale deeply, exhale deeply for 3 times, and relax, and you are done. I can only say that this works in many different ways, and it's really about opening your heart to calmness. It's like, if you think about it, your lungs and your heart are the natural place, the natural home for prana, which is the energy, the life force energy that runs through us. The breath, it's the breath is the life force energy. The first thing you do when you are born is you breathe. The last thing you do is you breathe. And so placing your left hand here creates a deep stillness at the heart center. And it's just a powerful meditation that I love. So I can't wait for you guys to share it. Try it. Let me know how it goes. Other than that, we're on to a new topic. It's September. It's not about to be. It is Virgo season. I love Virgo season. What? Because it's my birthday season. I'm super excited about Virgo season. And I'm also teaching a free class this weekend. So if you are interested in just trying out Kundalini Yoga, you're not familiar with, and you just want to know what's going on, I have a free class on Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so you can join me then. And then I also will be teaching a new series of classes at Yoga Love in Oakland. I'm super excited to be working with them, doing a 6-part introduction class for beginners, and I will be talking about that a little bit more coming up weeks. But I just wanted to know that there's opportunities for you to try this practice, and All I can say is it's just done wonders for me. And so I'm super excited to share it. And it's one of those things, the first thing in my life where I cannot not do it. Like, I cannot not be consistent with this because it's like there's just something inside of to me that just, I love it. So I love you. I hope that this 4 week series has been helpful to you. If you know someone who may be having some issues with their inner critic being hella loud, I invite you to share this podcast with them. And so help them get that healing. It takes a village for us all to heal. So don't be selfish with the healing. And I'll see you later. Ciao. Thanks for joining us this week on the Hello Well with Danielle show. Make sure to visit our website, hellowellwithdanielle.com, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music and never miss an episode. Also, you can follow us on social media at Hello Well with Danielle on Facebook and Instagram, and Hello Well Danny on Twitter. And if you hella love the show and got some good nuggets out of it, know that I'm not too proud to ask for you to please leave a rating or review on iTunes so that we can continue to expand our reach and help other women of color. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you next week. Ciao.